Safety and Social Justice Committee to order. First, we'll have a roll call, please.
Jackson?
Here.
Kaufman? Miller?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Kuhn? McGillivray?
Here. If you'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this point, we need an approval of the minutes from November 27th, 2018. Motion made by Jackson. Is there support?
Seconded.
Seconded by William Miller. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign for those opposed. Motion passes. Next is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Jackson.
Jackson makes a motion. Is there support? Ms. Nelson supports. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Public comment. Mr. Newman.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner McGillivray. I just want to take this opportunity for the first meeting of
If you can come to one of the microphones so that they can hear you good.
Absolutely. I just wanted to take the opportunity for the first meeting to introduce some of the division managers from the Department of Public Services that will be in front of you on a probably fairly regular basis. First, I'll introduce Kaz Majorca. Kaz is the administrator for the Medical Examiner's Office. And we have Barb Hankey. Barb is the manager of Community Corrections. And also I have Mr. Bob Gatt here. Bob is the manager of our animal control, animal shelter, pet adoptions for the county.
Very good. Thank
you
you all for being here.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to the regular agenda. Item number 1 is the Sheriff's Office 2019 Violent Offenders Task Force Grant Acceptance.
Good morning.
Mr. Cade.
Do you want to do a motion first, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Helping you out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm new to this. Do we have a motion? Supported by Nelson. Motion by Nelson, supported by Jackson. I'm sorry.
Thank you and good morning. Next to me is, most of you know, a couple of new commissioners. I think you met her once already when we had Jan Pierre, who is our financial officer for the Sheriff's Office. A couple people I have here today, in case there are any questions I can't answer. I have Captain Joe Quisenberry. Joe, if you'd stand up. Joe is in charge of one of the things that falls under him on the agenda today are two items, the Narcotics Task Force and the Violent Offenders Task Force. He has the Crime Lab, Auto Theft, Fugitive Apprehension Team, Narcotics Enforcement Team, Special Investigations Unit, the Arson Unit, the Warrants Unit. What am I missing, Joe? I say Auto Theft, I think. Okay. So he'll be here periodically during the next 2 years to answer any questions on any particular agenda items that might touch his end of the business. And then Captain Chris Wondrak, who's in charge of emergency response and preparedness, which is basically Homeland Security. He has training underneath him, which trains the entire department. We have almost 1,400 employees, which is a massive thing to undertake. He also has you have the Civil Unit. Help me out here, Chris. Records Unit. SWAT, well, he's here today because we got something on SWAT, and he'll answer any questions on that. Joint Terrorism Task Force, as you know, we have a sergeant assigned to the FBI Task Force in downtown Detroit.
Very good.
So anyway, this agenda item, thank you, is a grant from the federal government. We have a deputy assigned to the U.S. Marshals Task Force that is part of our Fugitive Apprehension Team. In other words, in our budget, he's in the Fugitive Apprehension Team. And for those of you that don't know, the newer commissioners, the Fugitive Apprehension Team goes out and arrests fugitives. They concentrate on Sixth Circuit bench warrants, violent criminals that have failed to appear in court. They also concentrate on people that were looking for probable cause arrests or warrants that have been issued where they have not been arrested and arraigned yet, and they work hand in hand with the U.S. Marshals Task Force, of which one of those deputies is assigned to that task force. So we have a fugitive apprehension team that's based here in Pontiac, and the U.S. Marshals Task Force, which is based in Detroit, concentrate on criminals from Oakland County. This is an overtime reimbursement for us that the federal government gives us. So when we go out and look for these fugitives, we get reimbursed for the overtime that is then expended. And if you have any questions further than that, happy to answer them.
Are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Kuhn.
Just a few questions about it, and I know you have someone here that might be able to answer this. We see a decrease in the amount. What's the
It
reason?
varies every year from the federal government. Some years, last year was 58,000 and some change. This year it's 40,000. We can't predict what that is going to be, but there was a cutback nationwide.
Okay, so it's the federal cutback. It wasn't a cutback in services that were provided?
No, we still provide all the services.
No,
yes, sir.
and is there, I take it that the federal government doesn't completely reimburse you services?
No, this is just for overtime reimbursement only.
Does it reimburse all your overtime?
Just overtime related to arresting those fugitives.
Okay. All right.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jackson,
Yes.
Hoffman, Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
McGillivray.
Yes. Motion carries. Number 2 is the Sheriff's Office 2007 State Criminal Alien Assistance Program. Reimbursements grant acceptance. Is there a motion? Motion by Miller. Is there support by Jackson?
This is a grant we get every year. It's a little bit of a delay because the federal government does it, after the fact. We submit to the federal government a list of all inmates in our facility over the year that were incarcerated in the Oakland County Jail who were sentenced inmates only. And from the data we send them, they then call out anybody that is here illegally, and then we get a reimbursement of, you can see this year it's $21,000. It's not a whole lot of money, but it's something. There's a formula that's based on salary only, not fringes, of the number of corrections officers you have, number of inmates in your facility, number of illegal aliens that they determine were here illegally, and then they partially reimburse us for that, and that's what this amount is.
Are there any questions?
I just have one question. Is
Yes,
it
sir.
the same as Commissioner Kuhn? Is that based on the government? They change it as they see fit from year
There
to
is a
year?
formula to it, and yeah, ultimately they control the numbers and how much they're gonna reimburse. There's a pot nationwide, and then they divide it up based on the formula that they develop.
We need to tell them to get a bigger pot.
You got that right.
Uh-huh.
Is there any further
Yeah,
questions?
Mr. Chair. Couple questions about this. I take it that the county keeps statistics on these.
We don't know who's illegal and who isn't.
Oh,
They determine that.
I see. So
They get our data, and from that data, they then determine that, Tom Kuhn was an illegal alien. He was in the Oakland County Jail for 30 days, and I didn't mean to use your name.
Yeah,
sir.
that's okay. So I take it you don't specifically identify people as
No.
illegal aliens?
We just send them the data. Now, we do contact the federal government if we believe somebody is here illegal, or we know they're an illegal alien because they tell us. We do contact the federal government to let them know that information immediately.
Does the federal government let you know the numbers of illegal aliens that you actually service in that year?
I don't know. I guess if you took the formula and you broke it
and did all
down,
the math on
you
the
could,
numbers.
you'd have to do the math to determine the number.
Okay, but they don't specifically tell you that information as far as numbers?
Not that I've seen in the grant, no.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
McGillivray.
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 3, Sheriff's Office Special Weapons and Tactics Team, SWAT Interlocal Agreement. Is there a motion? Motion by Jackson, seconded by Miller.
This is, we're pretty excited about this. I got Captain Wandrich next to me, and he'll give you a little bit of history on the SWAT team. We've had a SWAT team. I've been in the department, my 42nd year. We've had a SWAT team ever since I've been here. it's a very needed, unfortunately, and very highly skilled team. This is bringing in departments from outside the sheriff's office. The chiefs of these departments approached us. There was a South Oakland SWAT team. And as you can see, Commissioner and Commissioners, it's Berkeley, Hazel Park, Ferndale, Madison Heights, Huntington Woods, and Royal Oak. And we'll be bringing those. In fact, those members are now have passed all of our qualifications. They're being integrated into the team now. I'm going to have Chris give you a little bit of history on what exactly the SWAT team does. And they're called out an average of 35, 36 times a year.
And what our basic function is, we respond to any critical incident, barricaded gunman, active shooter event, high-risk search warrant service, natural disasters we can assist on. Last year in Brandon, they had a gunman on the loose in Brandon Township. We activated the SWAT team to help capture him. And we'll respond to any community that asks for our help, basically.
Is there any further questions? Mr. Coon?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Apparently, at least Berkeley and some of these southeast Oakland communities had a separate SWAT team. Is that common throughout the county that you have?
There's only a couple others. I know Troy,
Southfield.
Southfield,
And Novi, West Bloomfield.
Novi, West Bloomfield.
Okay, and what's the benefit for them, from your perspective, of joining the county team as opposed to having a separate team?
Well, they get to utilize our resources. It adds to the numbers for our team. And it allows them, when they have a situation in their community, to have skin in the game. They're involved, their officers are on scene in their community assisting as well.
How many members on the team right now?
Right now, we have a total of 39 members.
And I see in the contract it indicates that the county will provide support services when needed. Do you do this for communities that do not have?
We do it for everybody in the county. Anybody that calls, we respond.
Okay, so it's just.
And there's no charge for it. It's paid for out of the general fund.
All right. Thank you.
Is there any further questions? I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Of these 6 communities, are any of these cities new to this program?
They were part of the South team, the South Oakland team. The chiefs have disbanded that and rolled them into our SWAT team.
Okay. Very good. Any further questions? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Kuhn, Jackson,
Yes.
McGillivray.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. Item number 4, Sheriff's Office Narcotics Enforcement Team Net Interlocal Agreement with the Village of Franklin. Is there a motion? Motion by Miller, supported by Nelson.
The Narcotics Enforcement Team, a little bit of history here, and again, Captain Quisenberry is here, and he can go a little more detail, is the oldest and the first multi-jurisdictional task force in the state of Michigan. I think it was started in 1969.
I thought it was 71.
Around there somewhere. And is expanded to the following departments. I'll list them for you quickly that participate. We oversee the unit. It's housed in our headquarters at Sheriff's Headquarters here on campus. It's in an area back, where not accessible to the public, at the back of the building. And besides the Sheriff's Office, Auburn Hills PD, Birmingham PD, Bloomfield Township PD, Ferndale PD, Farmington City PD, Farmington Hills PD, Hazel Park PD, Madison Heights PD, Rochester PD, Royal Oak PD, Southfield PD, Troy Police Department, Waterford Township PD, West Bloomfield Township, White Lake just recently dropped out, the Drug Enforcement Agency of the federal government, Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, the Sheriff's Office Commerce Substation, so Commerce Township pays for a deputy to be in net. Pontiac Substation, Pontiac pays for a deputy to be in net. And the Rochester Hills, City of Rochester Hills, they pay for a deputy to be in net. And they're broken up into teams, and the captain here has a lieutenant underneath him that oversees the day-to-day operations of the narcotics enforcement team. It's a very successful unit. We have an interlocal agreement with all the entities that I have just listed for you. I think all the communities we just talked about are represented here on the board in this committee today. And if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. Chief Dan Roberts from Franklin Bingham Farms contacted us quite a while ago and expressed an interest, and he had talked to his village council, and they authorized a new position in their department to be assigned, have a person assigned to the narcotics enforcement team full-time. We provide the car, they pay some of their overtime. We have grants for overtime that we get from the federal government and from the state. We provide cell phones, computers, you name it. All they have to do is send a body with a handgun, and we provide everything else.
Very good. Is there any questions? Mr. Miller?
Just have one question is, what was the reason that White Lake no longer wants to
They
participate?
decided to go and assign a person, they're a smaller department, and they're assigning a person to the Drug Enforcement Agency instead. So they're not dropping out of the business, they're assigning a member to one of the DEA teams.
Thank you.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yeah, Chairman McGilvery, you indicate that there's no additional change to the budget. Is that because you budget by the number of departments or individuals, or why is that?
Go ahead.
Well, in this one, White Lake recently dropped out, so the car and everything that was assigned to that unit, we were able to transfer to Franklin. So, normally if we were adding somebody else, we would have additional budgetary impact, but this time we didn't.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Nelson,
Yes.
Kuhn, Jackson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
McGilvray.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you the next 2 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can made it easy on.
And for the new commissioners, you know, we told you anytime you want the tours, just let us know. We can set them up individually or on a group basis. And Mr. Chairman, same thing. If anybody wants to, you know, ride in the aviation unit and get a view of what they do, it's open to everybody, and we're happy to accommodate you.
We have
you
a
up on that.
question from
Yeah.
Commissioner Kuhn.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chairman McGilvery.
Yes, sir.
In your documentation, you talked about the net advisory board. Can you just give us a little
Sure,
background
it's made up
about
of the
that?
police chiefs of all those agencies I just listed to you. The board meets quarterly. The current chairman is Chief Patton from West Bloomfield Township PD. And everybody that's on the board has a vote. And then even all the other police agencies in the county, if they don't participate, they're still welcome to come to the meetings. We send notices to every police chief. They don't necessarily get a vote, but they are involved.
And what do they do?
They kind of, you know, the sheriff sets policy. It's run by the sheriff's office. We have an agenda we put together. We give them, go ahead, Joe, you tell.
The advisory committee is we meet and talk of what is important to them and make sure that the priorities that are important to the local chiefs, and they all have input in the resources of what we're gonna commit to what areas. And an example is back in 2008 when medical marijuana passed, and there was a lot of discussion how much resources need to be committed to this. Then also, now with the new marijuana law just passed, a discussion amongst all chiefs, so we're all on the same page about what we're going to do and how we're going to commit resources to the highest priority of our public safety threats. And so all the chiefs have an input and know exactly what our operations are about. And for what it's worth, we are the only sheriff's-run narcotic task force in the state of Michigan.
And opiates, obviously, it's top priority right now. You know, marijuana's been kind of pushed to the side, and that's the vote of the people, that's fine. So allow us to concentrate on those cocaine, heroin, prescription drugs, et cetera. Methamphetamine, you name it.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The last thing we have on the agenda is communications, Animal Shelter and Pet Adoption Center intake disposition report for November of 18, and prosecuting attorney fiscal year 2019 victim rights grant application. Is there one motion for communications? Mr. Miller, supported by Nelson. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just had a question.
Sure.
Chairman. Is all this funding used for positions? Is that what, I see they have a list of all these advocates and new
Yeah.
secretarial and new supervisor positions. Is that what this money is typically used for?
Pam?
We are talking about
Come on, item B.
communication. victims' rights.
Yeah, I don't see anybody from the.
Everybody's here from the prosecutor's office.
I believe it's one supervisor and three.
HR.
I can speak to this. The Victims' Rights Grant covers not just positions, it covers the activities of the function of that unit also. They have received the ability to apply for additional grant funding, which allows them to increase their staff size for this next year.
Right, and I don't know if you can help on this, but it indicates that there's a new supervisor position. Is that what the previously supervisor position, or?
They've had a part-time supervisor for some time now.
Okay, and so, this is going to be a full-time supervisor?
It will be a full-time supervisor.
And just because maybe you know, maybe you don't, maybe somebody knows, what do the victim advocates do?
That I don't know. What I can do is email you the job description. They're assisting, I know they're assisting victims with finding resources.
Finding resources
Yes.
that help them, maybe mental health.
Correct.
Kind of resources and that sort of thing.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
Jordy, you have a
They
comment?
help the victims of the crime go through the process while the prosecutors are
Oh, I
going to
see.
court.
That's
Some of
the
them,
same.
they're dedicated to work with those victims during the court process.
During the court process.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll just add on, in PDF page 62 of your packet, there's the budget breakdown that goes over the $766,000. So the majority is made up of personnel costs, but there are other costs for operating that unit.
And, right. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion on the communications? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign for those opposed. Motion carries. There being no further business, meeting stands adjourned.